Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Natasha and welcome to my channel. So on this channel we talk about all things prepping on a budget. We have been slightly MIA for a couple of months and this is why, my friends. So in today's video we are going to talk about the My Home Apothecary collaboration. So this is our second year hosting this collaboration. Myself along with Mountain Grandma, we are super excited to bring this collaboration to you guys on YouTube, and I am going to keep my video extremely super simple. I know that a lot of times when you think of apothecary, you think of tinctures, dried herbs, salves, balms. I'm going to show you a different way, okay? So make sure you stay tuned, make sure you follow along down in the description box. I will link the playlist, and we've got some epic prizes. So you are definitely going to want to follow along on this collaboration, and let's get to it. Okay, so I mentioned that I'm going to keep mine very simple because I definitely, one, do not have the time to make some tincture salves and anything that takes more than a couple of minutes of brain power. I am so busy right now, working full-time, taking care of the monkey. The kids are in sports. We've got cheerleading. I am an assistant cheer coach for my daughter's team. We've got travel baseball for my son. We are just busy. I'm about to start going back to college in the fall to finish out my bachelor's degree. So we're busy. We've got this beautiful garden this year. I am super happy that this year our harvest has been completely overflowing. We have had so much abundance this year, and honestly these beds have made a tremendous difference. The weather has made a big difference this year. The way that it has rained and then gotten hot and then rained again. I really haven't had to be out here doing a whole ton of maintenance. I did come out earlier this morning because today is the first day that it is not 110 degrees out. We are in the 60s, and praise Jesus, because I was getting pretty miserable out here. The mosquitoes are horrendous, and so anytime I would come out to pick and harvest, I would get ate up by the mosquitoes. So I would have to wait until it's dark, wear long sleeves. I'd be out here sweating, trying to harvest. But it's a good problem to have, a very good problem to have. So for my home apothecary video, I want to talk about what we put into our bodies, okay? So on a day-to-day, we are eating. Eating is unfortunately a necessary evil of life. And I feel like we sometimes overcomplicate when we think of herbs, medicinal values, things of that nature. And we need to kind of dial it back a little bit. Now, I am all for a great tincture, a great salve, all for it. However, there are so many things that we could do on a day-to-day basis that are very minute but add up in the long run. And I mean, if we're going to be eating anyways, we might as well nourish our bodies and heal it from the inside out versus healing it from the outside in. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to just give you a pan of the garden because it's been a while, and then we are going to go inside. I've got some couple of tips on very easy things that we can do to start nourishing from the inside out, and keep it simple, my friends. It doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be overwhelming, and this is how I try and get those herbs, get all those medicinal properties into my diet. Very easy, very simple. So this bed right here is our big U bed. It's got the solar light right here. I will link these beds down in the description box below. No, I'm not an affiliate, but I love these beds. So they are pretty expensive. I won't lie though, they are worth every penny. We've had to do little maintenance. You can see right here, this morning have gone through and started pulling things that were are cool weather type crops, and it is just out of season now. So the broccoli, the cauliflower, we've gotten our harvest off of them. They were just doing little spuds. So I've pulled all those to give room for the other things here, like my peppers. We've got jalapenos right here growing. A lot of this is basil. So right here, basil is a wonderful pest control in your garden beds. And I'm actually came out here originally to pick some because we are going to put that in one of our recipes that I am going to show you. So I'm going to put that in my packet. I have, these are green beans, and we are desperately needing to pick. And I'm super excited about that now that the weather has kind of given me an opportunity to come out here, and I can really dig deep and pick all of these today. So these are stringless, heirloom, Blue Lake, vining green beans. So pretty much the whole back of the trellis here, that's everything, the green beans. I've got some flowers planted in between here. More basil. This one's a pepper plant. I want to say that's jalapeno. And then another jalapeno over here. And then just some flower and a basil. I did some cleanup in this bed. This had all of my broccoli and cauliflower, so I've cleaned that up. And I've picked some of my peppers, but there's still a couple more that need picked. These are chocolate peppers is what they're called. They get kind of like a deep purpley reddish when they are fully ripe. They are super delicious. Over here, this just looks like a mess, but I promise it is organized chaos. I've got my Swiss chard down here along with some heirloom tomatoes. These ones look like they are the Ozark, pink Ozark tomatoes. They do really well here, especially during the heat. I've got some cleanup in this bed to do. You can see these right here need to be cleaned up. This is my cucumbers. We plant cucumbers about every 4 years because when we do plant them, they do super well here. And I get overwhelmed. Thankfully, my neighbor across the street has gotten probably 30-40 pounds of cucumbers from me this season. That was overflow of just these couple of plants that I planted this year. So lots of pickles are canned and ready to go. So these ones are another green bean. I will probably not grow these ones again next year. These are a string bean, a string vining bean. I'd have to look exactly what they were. But they're just not our favorite. I don't really appreciate the extra time of having to string beans. When time is limited, I prefer the Blue Lakes that don't need to be stringed. Over here, this was kind of a surprise. So a couple years ago, we planted this over here. This is comfrey. And I planted it in a pot. And I've actually moved the pot a couple years ago way over there. And we noticed this the other day popping up, and we were like, oh, what is that? And then I was like, you know what? That's comfrey. So you can see the little flowers here. So here is one of our medicinals. At some point I will harvest that and get that processed in some way, shape, or form. Basil. I absolutely love basil. Pesto, water, tea, tincture. I don't know. I'm just obsessed with the flavor of it. So this is something that I have been dehydrating the absolute snot out of this year. We've also processed it with tomatoes and boiled down our tomatoes into like a tomato paste and sauce. And I've added just a couple of leaves on top of the freeze-dried trays before we throw those into the freeze dryer, and it is just marvelous. Marvelous. So if basil is not your jam, don't plant this much. This actually came from one of the little $3 ones that you can buy at like Ingles. That is this. So there's no need to buy a very expensive plant, because I bought one, had a little bit of snippings left for the recipe that I was using, and was like, oh, I'll throw it in the garden. Maybe it'll grow. Yeah, it definitely grew. So lots of basil. The bees absolutely love this. It's a wonderful pollinator. The bees are all over this all summer long. Let's see here. So then we have kind of my jungle. Now y'all remember last year this was also a jungle, but so last year this was like a nightmare to where I couldn't even figure out what was going on. This year, I still can't figure out what's going on. But everything is actually appropriately spaced. I do need to pick this. So we've got a ton of squash right here. We have gotten so much squash. Squash and zucchini. I have freeze dried. I have plugged in my other freezer to freeze squash and to hold all of the tomatoes that we have been harvesting. So lots of squash. I've got 2 eggplants. This one's being overtaken by vines, but that's okay because I have eggplanted out myself. I'm over the eggplants now. Lots of tomatoes, okay? So many tomatoes. We have those little ones. I did not plant the really tiny spoon tomatoes. Those overtook my garden last year. Apparently, they have come up through the weed barrier this year. Let's see here. So these are the purple bumbles. They are delicious. I have been harvesting and processing those. It's so good. And the monkey enjoys them. More purple bumbles. You can see that because of the weather this year, a lot of my tomato sticks did not survive. So next year we will spend the extra and get more of those ones because they seem to hold these tomatoes up. Man, I've got a lot of tomatoes to pick today. Over here, let me see if I can scroll it in for y'all to see. You see all those? Those are my haste tomatoes. Those are also heirloom. I've got a bunch of those to pick, it looks like. So I will probably be processing more tomato sauce today. So now I'm going to take you guys inside. I'm going to show you the very simple ways that I am adding in some medicinal herbs into my easy lunch that I'm about to eat. Again, make it super simple. It doesn't have to be hard, my friends. Go with what works for you. If you ain't got time to tincture, do dried herbs. There is always time to make yourself a nice cup of tea and to do some of these other ones that I have planned. All right, my friends, so we are back inside and here is my lunch. Obviously, one of the very easy ways to get a lot of your micronutrients is to do a big salad. So I do like to have a salad multiple times a week. This is a pretty big bowl. Sometimes I do fill this almost double depending on how hungry I am. So in this I have some of our eggs from our chickens, hard-boiled eggs. I've got some of those Roma tomatoes in here. I think I cut up 3 of them. So we've got that in there. I have one of my green peppers that I picked from the garden earlier in there. I have some homemade hummus on top. It's kind of like my dressing. And then I also put on a salad crunch packet, and that has some cashews, some pistachios, some cherries, and it is just going to be absolutely delicious with probably the last head of lettuce that I'm going to get from our garden this year at the bottom. So easy way to get yourself some wonderful, delicious micronutrients into your diet without having to do anything extra or crazy you are going to eat anyways. So this is one of the ways that I like to incorporate some of those delicious garden veggies into what I am eating. Now, if I would have had some cilantro left, my cilantro all died due to the weather. If I would have had some left, I definitely would have made myself kind of like a little olive oil cilantro drizzle on top. And that is another easy way to get some herbs and all those medicinal properties into what you're eating. Another easy way is, you can see right here, my water. The basil that I picked earlier, that is right here inside of my water. I absolutely love having infused water. So I've got some lemon, cucumber from the garden, and some basil. And sometimes we do a big jug and we just put it into the refrigerator, let it sit for a couple of days, and all of those flavors infuse, and it is just delicious. Another easy way is tea. In the morning times, I do like to have myself an elderberry green tea, and obviously I love to put in a thing of basil or two because I'm just obsessed. And that is what I sip on while I'm starting out my work day. So very easy ways, friends, if you incorporate it into your diet. Now, obviously, a lot of the other videos on this collaboration are going to do the tincture route, and that is absolutely okay. And if you have time to do it, most certainly do. And I'm hoping that I get to learn some new recipes and new ways to use things as well for the other videos in this collaboration. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and check out the playlist down in the description box below. I will see you in